everyone. I'm Dr. Jessica Costa, the Director for Multilingual Learner Support with Instruction Partners, and I'm joined by my colleague, Jose.
Hey all, this is Jose Guadarrama, Director of Instructional Support for Early Literacy here at Instruction Partners.
And today we're talking about classroom-based strategies for ensuring multilingual learners develop foundational skills and have exceptional experiences becoming readers. Strategy 3 specifically is to provide additional targeted support for newly taught sounds or sound patterns not in the student's primary languages. One of the ways that we can put strategy 3 into action would be by explicitly modeling precise and accurate pronunciation and articulation of sounds or sound patterns and reinforcing accurate practice. During small group time, providing extra practice opportunities on those sounds or sound patterns identified as different from the student's primary language, and then also thinking about the precision for those new sounds will occur over time. It's also, again, important for us to think about how the language development is different for multilingual learners than their students who have grown up being immersed in hearing and producing these sounds, and now they're learning to connect to letters. So just having some patience in the growth, in the precision of making that sound, and of course the additional practice.
Yeah, I really appreciate the idea, Dr. Costa, that students need varying degrees of practice to become proficient. That's true of all students. And we need to know this is especially true for students that are multilingual. For Spanish-speaking students in my classroom, I think about how I can give them more access to scaffolds that may already exist in my curricular materials if they've demonstrated a need for those scaffolds. Specifically, when lessons go into articulation gestures, so like mouth and tongue placement for new letters, I make sure that I have a printed visual of what the mouth and tongue are doing with specific sounds. I'd also model what it looks like live. In the context where we are in masked classrooms, right? I'd pull down my mask at a safe distance and exaggerate the articulation gesture. And then, when appropriate, I'd ask students to do the same. I would probably make use of handheld mirrors as well, so they can see their mouth shape. And I'd offer corrections to mouth shape, making sure that I'm using that printed visual that students could then refer to when they're working in partners or independent of me. If there were a couple of students that are having a hard time with specific sound spelling, with sounds like articulation, I could even, give them a smaller version of that larger poster that may be up on a wall so they can reference when they need it. If I had a resource within my school, like a speech language pathologist, I would definitely also reach out to them to see if there are any additional strategies that I could offer students to have more of that support.
Love that you called in collaboration, and there are resources in our building, including the language learner specialist, as you mentioned, some other specialty area experts that can add to our instruction and really be a resource for us. So I love that you called that in. I was also thinking about maybe even doing some minimal pairs and talking about the differences in how we make the sounds with students. I could even, do the voicing practice where we're practicing or having them create the sounds and like feeling what our body is doing differently based on that. So just some things I was thinking about as you were sharing that idea. I also want to recognize that, as you mentioned, students are at different levels of proficiency, and based on their primary language, might have more skill in articulating a certain sound than others. And so for those, when we recognize are going to need more of that support for the students who are beginning their journey in English and it's new, or the specific sound is new, we may include more of those supports, those articulation gestures, like you said, I think like a flashcard for them to have that and practice at home in the mirror. as they progress in their vocabulary and comprehension and oral language proficiency in English, we might not need to provide the extent of those kinds of supports and scaffolds or connections to their home language. We still want to be intentional about including the student's language, even if they don't need it for articulation. It's really important that that student still feels valued, that they know that they can use their language as a resource, their language dialect or variety, that we make those connections for them. And there's an effective piece, there's the socio-emotional component of feeling part of that space, that the teacher has brought in their language as part of their identity, which we know we can't separate. So I just wanted to bring that up as well. And that we leverage opportunities throughout the day. If we know students still need that targeted practice for certain skills and sounds, that we find opportunities throughout the curriculum to reinforce that as well. And so thank you, Jose, for sharing those classroom-based strategies. For anyone watching who wants to hear more classroom-based strategies for centering multilingual learners in foundational skills instruction, please watch our other videos and download the resource linked in the description of this video.